is the blending of two ideas or two pieces or more of information, and just sort of bringing them together. And we get to look at how sometimes we do that in our lives, associating things that uh, end up being a disempowering association. So we get to dig into that a little bit today. It'll be pretty cool. Before we start, though, how about if we take a moment to get present? So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clear, crisp oxygen just flooding into your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream and nourishing all your cells and all your organs and revitalizing and reinvigorating you. And as you exhale, exhale any tension or stress in your shoulders, your neck, your back. And let's take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it, and this time imagine sparkling white light lighting up every molecule of your being and vibrating and electrifying and energizing and connecting you with the world beyond. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress. And now let's just gently press our palms together and really softly, 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 softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel that wonderful tingling and tickling and the sensation of sensation. And allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here. I'm so glad to spend this time with you on this Thursday. Let's talk about conflation. So, I've recently become aware of uh, situations where people are assigning a relationship between two things that leaves them um, holding on to pain. And one of the areas that this shows up with some frequency is around the pain of loss of someone that we dearly love. And when so much of what we're faced with right now in this health crisis and craziness that's going on in the world is loss, and loss of people we love, loss of opportunity, all kinds of loss. And one of the ways that maybe even where we have some social conditioning to hold on to the pain of that loss as a way to hold the memory of someone dear. And what happens is that pain becomes conflated with the notion of love, right? And holding someone close to our hearts. And the way that we hold them dear is that with this deep mixture of love and sorrow, love and pain. And part of that is generated from a fear of forgetting and a fear of losing the connection with that very dear person in our lives. And when we recognize that that's the dynamic at play, it gives us an opportunity to potentially connect more deeply with our actual love for that person, and to feel the connection we feel with joy and appreciation and gratitude. And I don't know that this is a shift that can be made consciously. However, I believe that by consciously recognizing these associations, we can then consciously entertain other possibilities. And certainly there is a traumatic aspect of the loss that holds the grief in place. Because we miss having these people in our lives. We miss being able to have that intimate physical connection with these people. The thing is that by keeping the relationship and the love for them alive through pain, uh, even in the grief, um, we're kind of locking ourselves into a longer or a more pervasive dynamic that. Hello, Liliane. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about conflating emotions. So, the emotion, for instance, the combination of emotions of love and pain, particularly when we lose someone dear to us. And the way that we tend to keep them alive is by suffering their loss rather than celebrating their presence in us. So the interesting thing is that in suffering their loss, we are aware of their presence in us, and we're also aware of the lack of their presence. And I'm looking at what it would mean to be able to make a movement, an emotional movement from the focus of loss and pain to a focus of reverence and appreciation and celebration for the gift that that person brought to our lives, the gifts that that person brought to our lives and was in our life. So, this is one example of a conflation of emotions that then potentially are going to play out in the rest of our lives. If we have an association of love and pain, what does that mean for the relationships we're going to create? Or we may be so averse to experiencing that pain again that we don't even allow ourselves the opportunity to love because we have that association. And it's not a true association. Like in the objective world, love is love and pain is pain. But when we conflate them, we play that out in our lives by, like I said, either avoiding that pain, so avoiding love, for example, or by creating a love relationship that replicates the pain as well. So I think this is a really interesting and important thing for us to look at in terms of our conscious awareness. And there are many examples of ways that we do this. For instance, I have a friend a couple friends, multiple friends that are in the arts, and we're talking about being starving artists. So, like, there is an association of suffering with self expression, or suffering with creativity, or struggle with creativity. And for instance, if you identify as the starving artist, how can you be abundant in life? Even if you're doing the thing that your heart is calling you to do, if you have adopted this starving artist sort of conflation, to be an artist and to be starving. I'm putting them together, and it's not entirely yours, because that's sort of, it's a social trope. I mean, it exists in our common conversation. But if that's something that you have adopted, then how can you be abundant and hold that at the same time? And so what I'm wanting to do here, or desiring to do here, is to bring conscious the associations that we have for certain things, and then how they show up in our behavior and in our choices, and in creating limitations for ourselves. So one example that I can come up with really easily, again, around the love and pain situation, is the loss of a dear pet. Not even, it's not limited to people, but the loss of a dear pet. And it can be so devastating when this companion dies that people often choose not to have another pet, have another companion, because the bond was so deep and the loss was so crushing. But there's so much joy to be had with a pet, right? There's so much companionship and love to be available there, that what a deprivation to impose upon yourself, to not be willing to experience the joy and love and connection again. Lillian, I love that you participate here so much. It just makes my heart so full. She says, when I miss my father or my grandparents, I use the beautiful memories to give me that love and good feeling in my heart. The same I felt when they were here. That the same as I felt when they were here. That's my way to change the loss and sadness, and change it to the love feeling and happiness instead. For me, that helps. I still feel them around me every day in their loving energy. And Lillian, thank you so much for that, because isn't it better? Isn't it more joyful? Isn't it more life affirming and supportive to be allowing yourself to experience the joy and happiness and heartfelt love and connection that we've had with these people, or these spirits, these other beings? Isn't it more life affirming to be present to who they are in your heart? Allow them to live in your heart as the light that they were, as the light that they still are, because you can carry them in your heart in a way that their light still shines, rather than in a place of pain and loss, right? So I think we do have the opportunity to make conscious choices about where we place our focus and our attention, and the energy of our emotions. And yesterday, with my coaching group, we had a conversation about connecting with others and transforming emotions. That's something we spoke about earlier this week, is transmuting emotions, and looking at the energy of these emotions. So one person said, and I thought this was so powerful, and it was really interesting. We were talking about trauma, and this person was talking about how they were periodically dipping in and out of traumatic events, remembering traumatic events, and then recognizing the intensity of the energy of connecting back into that, and then using that energy, the power of that energy, to generate something new and powerful. And there was a belief, this is again conflation, there was a belief that it was necessary to be able to experience that trauma in order to connect with their clients who were traumatized. And what we came to was an awareness that perhaps we have the opportunity instead to connect to the intensity of the energy, to recognize the energy without the experience of the trauma. So when we connect with a loved one in our heart, even with the depth of sorrow, what we can do is not allow the story to take us over, but to feel into the intensity and the power of the energy of that emotion. And then we can redirect that emotion into perhaps a higher frequency of emotion. So Lillian says, yes, I know what you mean, but I always had seen when I lose one of my pets, they've sent me someone that's needed my help, and that helps me see just the loving instead of the sadness. Well, that's beautiful. So, I love that you're talking about that your pets send you someone. Like our pets, uh, they're really rich spirit gifts in our lives, and guardians, and companions, and they definitely operate on another level, for sure, for sure. So Liliane says, other pets that need my help for healing and my love. In that way, I also get the love I lost from my pet that I love and missed. So it sounds like what you're saying is that when a pet passes, it puts another pet in your path so that you can lavish that new pet who needs your love with love and affection. And what a gift. What a beautiful gift that is. I love it. And how generous of your pets to share you in that way with others. So, it's interesting. My connection to animals has always been so deep. So my pets have been some of my best friends in my whole life, some of my deepest loves. Even when I was a kid, pets or animals were my best friends. And there was a story that my father used to tell me when I was really little. They took me into, we went into like Crystal Cave to explore it. And I got scared for whatever reason. And I just called out the name of all my animal friends, like, where are you? Where are you? Come protect me, just calling out from the protection of my animal friends. So my dad was a veterinarian, so animals have always been a really big part of my life. And I think that that animals have been a huge pathway to the experience of my heart, because they're so unconditional, right? They're unconditional in their loving and their being, and they're just pure spirits. So anyway, this idea of conflation. So what other kinds of things can we look at where there are conflations that don't necessarily serve us? Because we've been looking at the way that we set things up in our minds and our hearts, the way that those things then impact our experiences and also our opportunities. So I'm trying to think, what other kinds of things do we conflate? Lillian says, I totally know what you mean. Animals always show up on my doorstep for help. Well, they know where to come, Lillian, right? They know who you are. They know where to find you. That's awesome. So other things that we conflate, I'm just thinking about another conversation that we had earlier this week around, good morning, Ross from Paso Robles, California. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you here again. Another thing that we spoke about this week, which is a conflation, is I make a mistake, so therefore I'm a bad person. Or I make a mistake, so therefore something's wrong with me. Or I don't weigh what I want to weigh, and therefore I'm lazy, or some wild things that we make these equivalencies, and we conflate these ideas and then brutalize ourselves with them. And what this is an invitation to do is to wake up a bit, to recognize these associations that we make and start disentangling them and ourselves from the oppression that we create with these dynamics. So, for instance, I didn't do something that I had planned to do today, and therefore I'm lazy. Or what other ones could there be? All kinds of ways that we choose to beat ourselves up. Uh, what we can do is, as we recognize these things, challenge that association. So with this idea of love and pain, what I recognize is that it's not love that is the pain, it's a feeling of loss. And so there's a story about loss, and this is what we were talking about early on, where we can recreate the story that we tell about the people that, or the pets or the loved ones that have passed, um, rather than the story of them not being here, finding ways that they are here. Like, recognize that they are in your heart, even though you might initially feel a deep emptiness when someone makes a transition to another state, when someone dies, when someone is no longer present in your life. I know that I went through deep periods of mourning in my life over loss. And the thing is that loss is loss. Loss isn't love. And so when we lose someone in our lives, we can be grieving the loss, but that's not love. They're different emotions. They're two different things. And if we can presence ourselves, if we can choose to consciously and deliberately presence ourselves to the love, it has a whole different feeling than the loss. There may be some sweetness to the loss, but what loss is about is something familiar not being there anymore. Love is a feeling, an emotion that is full and expansive, and it may bring up tears, but it's an expansive richness. And it's not only through our sadness that we connect with those that we've lost. We can connect again by sourcing the love for them. And what happens is we have this love, and then what comes into the story is they're not here anymore. And the thing is that when you think of that person, you're presencing them, and you get to presence them with conscious intent, and with sourcing your love if you choose. And it's not as easy because I think human beings are so patterned into pain and loss. And we do have the opportunity to deliberately and consciously repattern ourselves into the higher frequencies of love and connection. And even when someone's passed, we can source that connection. We can find their presence. We can enjoy the memories of them. We can even recreate the warmth in our hearts of their presence, their physical presence, and allow ourselves to be reliving those moments, not as something that's gone away, but as something that we're actually bringing forth and conjuring into presence in this given moment. So the truth is that the human mind is unable to distinguish between true things that happened and things that were vividly imagined. So by imagining with vivid detail and vivid emotion the experience of someone that we deeply love, we are bringing them into presence. We are bringing them into being. And we do have that power. And Lillian says, yes, that's true. A loss is a loss, as you say. But if we use the love instead, beautiful feelings come back to us when they were here with us. Yes. Yes. So make the distinction for yourself. Give yourself the gift of understanding that loss is loss, love is love. The two are not the same. And we can presence ourselves to the feeling. Now, the thing is that we use the loss to connect to that person. And that's where love becomes conflated with pain. So what if we use the love more deliberately and more consciously, and the memories that were beautiful, and cultivate them and attend to them and nurture them so that they grow to displace this deep sense of connection between love and loss. And feeling that love will most likely help to heal that deep sense of loss. And Lillian says, when I changed the loss feeling with love feeling, it was so much easier to manage. Yes, yes. And I know so many people, I've done work with so many people who have had deep loss and felt that the only way that they could stay connected to the person or the pet or the situation that they lost was by feeling that pain. But that's not true. It's just not true. You can remember the person and hold them in your heart with the deep love instead of the pain, and remember them, revitalize them by experiencing the love for them in your heart. So I invite you to look at the kinds of things that, the kinds of emotions or the kinds of ideas that you have conflated, and challenge, is this true? You know, is love and loss, are love and loss synonymous? You know, and I understand that it's because we love that we end up potentially feeling loss, but that loss doesn't stop us from love. And if it's the fear of loss that prohibits us from embarking on love, then that, what a deep loss that is, right? Lillian says, it was meant for me to get on here with you today. I'm going through some hard stuff with my sick old mother this week, and it's sad, but I use love instead of fear. Lillian, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom and the difficulty you're going through. I'm glad that this was important and poignant for you. I'm so glad, and I wish you both grace and connection with that love. And Christina, welcome, welcome. I am so glad to have you here too. Christina says, I just lost my mom this year, and you're right. Loss is loss, love is love. Finding a balance. It can be very raw sometimes, and I do allow it, and then send love to myself and to her. That's beautiful, Christina. I'm so sorry for your loss. And and you're right, finding the balance, you know, allow yourself to feel the loss and the sorrow, and know that that is loss and sorrow, and that love is love, and you do have the opportunity to choose to be present to the love that's there. So, and Lillian says it helps her and myself to be in this place of love instead of fear. Beautiful, beautiful. It was such a heartfelt conversation today. Lillian says, thank you. It felt good to talk to you here, Mira. Thank you for your love. Yes, thank you. Thank you. This is, you know, it takes courage to step into love. And I honor all of you for that, for your willingness to choose love, to choose love. Because as we choose love, we are elevating the world. We are. And you're elevating yourself, you're elevating the people around you, you're elevating the field. So good morning, Gina. I'm so glad to have you here. We're just about wrapping up, so if you missed this was a really deep, beautiful conversation about how we tend to blend things that don't really equate with each other, such as love and loss. And so let's allow ourselves. Thank you, Lillian. Let's allow ourselves to find freedom by disentangling these things that limit our expression and our hearts. Okay? Try that, and sort of shine a light on these things that it seems that it's true until we start looking at it. You know, like love and loss have been paired for centuries, but the truth is love is love, loss is loss, and we can experience them independent of one another. And I think that's it for today. Lots and lots of love to you. And thank you so much for being here with me and engaging in these conversations and these inquiries. And my heart goes out to you in your losses. And um, just I encourage you to allow yourself to connect with the expansiveness of the love that you are. And Dido, I love you so much. And you're so welcome. Yeah, I choose to love. It takes courage. So we get to choose that. So much love to you guys. Whew. Have a wonderful, wonderful, loving day with all my heart.